so thrilled that there are so many people here interested in learning about 3D printing in Minecraft. And my name is Douglas Keong, and I teach at Punahou School in Honolulu, Hawaii. And we are super excited to tell you a lot about what we're doing. We want to encourage you as well to check out Minecraft Education Edition, which you can see downstairs. It's a great way for schools to bring Minecraft to their students. And we are really fortunate today to have David and his daughter Phoebe, who are here from Australia. And they're going to talk about some of the work they've done with students on building a huge Minecraft city. I'm going to talk about some of the value that we see in teaching kids how to build using Minecraft. And we are equally honored to have Eric Haynes here, who's the inventor of Mineways, which is the way that you get the models from Minecraft onto something that's physical. We have some models that are up here, so we'd encourage you at the end of the presentation, we'll have time for questions, and also if you'd like to check out some of these on your own or ask any other questions, there'll be time to do that as well. So again, welcome. We're really thrilled that you're here, and David, you want to lead this off?
Yes. Good day. So we are from Australia, me and Phoebe, and we've been doing this Minecraft and 3D printing for a while now. And today I just want to show you one or two projects that we've done with children. So these are children as young as some of the attendants you see here, 5, 6, 7 years old. So it's, the program, it's fantastic because it shows how the children can use their creativity in Minecraft, and then they can actually 3D print out the things that they made in Minecraft. So these are the children that I work with, some of them anyway. So they range from 5 years old up to 12 years old. So it's pretty interesting to work with kids because you never know what they come up with. So a little bit of motivation, how we got started. One of the students that come to our class, he enjoys playing Minecraft. He says Minecraft is the best thing ever. So, and we did 3D printing as well, and he did say that 3D printing is cool, and you know, you can do all sorts of cool things with 3D printing, and that got us thinking, what if we combine the two and see what we come up with? So that's how we got started. We use Minecraft, and as an engineer, I'm trained to think Minecraft as not only as a game, but also as some sort of CAD software, computer-aided design software. And we use Eric's Mineways to export out the structures that we build in Minecraft so that we can 3D print them out. We think that it's a great tool for kids to get into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, especially for kids in the early primary years. So we ran 2 programs, 3 actually. So I'll be talking about the city and also touch briefly on Planet X. These are all done by children, very young children, over the school holidays. And the city actually, it's a pretty impressive thing. We'll be talking mainly about that. This is how it looks like printed. It's about 2 meters, 2.5 meters in length, and 0.5 meter in width. And you know, it's a fantastic thing that it's all done by kids, built in Minecraft and 3D printed. So how did we go about the process of making this this city? So we started off in Minecraft with a rectangular block, and we pretty soon found out that the kids actually built too fast. So we ended up making an extension of that. So we had to go double the size, and because it's sort of a scalable thing, they can go as big as we wanted to, or we could. So we went twice that size. We started off dividing it into square blocks, 80 by 80 blocks, And then we did what we call terraform. So we put a river across the piece of land. We put a crater, bit of forest, simple stuff. And then we just let the kids run wild in Minecraft. So this is day 1. So they built a couple of things, a temple, some structures, which we'll show in a video. And then that's day 2, a bit more stuff. These are done over a course of 14 days by different children. So some of them came back, but some of them just came for one day, and they built something in that day, and they printed it out, and then we got to put this printout in a big panel. So day 3, a bit more stuff. Day 4, it starts to get a bit crowded. And by day 5, okay, we think that we need to extend the piece, so that's why we open up a new piece of land, subdivided that, and then they start building again. These are different kids, so they started building, and then we ran into trouble in day 9, so that's all sorts of havoc. There's lava, that's, they started to make outside the perimeter of where we wanted them to build, so they went outside and make lakes and caves and stuff like that. Luckily, we saved the walls. We saved it every day. In fact, we saved it more than once every day, so that we managed to go back, revert to, the older version of Minecraft, the world that they built in Minecraft. So day 11 looks pretty good, and by day 12, we put them together and it looks quite impressive. So this is day 13, and then by day 14, we managed to print everything out. And these are some of the things that the kids built. So we have a super giant tree house, for example, in the middle, bottom middle, says this giant tree house. And then we have kids that are, they're into Star Wars, so they put TIE fighters and all those StarCrafty things in there. And this is how the structures look like 3D printed. Some of them we brought up in front here, so after the session you might want to come and have a look at them. It's pretty cool. It's blocky because Minecraft is blocky, so it came out blocky, but it looks great. Now, when we first ran this program, we had no idea what the kids were going to do, so we let them have access to everything, including TNTs. And it turned out to be, it's pretty destructive. So with TNT, there's no undo. So some of the examples, the kids got a bit carried away with the builds, and they were helping each other out at one point, and then they decided, no, I don't want to help you anymore. I'm going to blow it up. So some of the things you can see that, okay, they blew it up. Okay, we have to restart the world. Now, having said that, there are some creative use of TNT. So this child, he decided he wanted to make a cave, an underground cave. So the fastest way that we could make a cave is blow up a piece of land. So he blew it up and make a fantastic looking cave in this world here. A couple things that we've learned from Minecraft is there is no undo button, no Control Z, nothing like that. So if you messed up, sorry, that's it. If you haven't saved, there's no going back. So we learned that very quickly early in the program. The other rule that we found out very quickly was TNT. It's pretty dangerous, so you got to use that wisely. And the last rule is we were amazed by what the kids built, and do not underestimate what the kids can build. They're pretty amazing with their creativity, and Minecraft is just fantastic for showing off what they are capable of. So I just want to show you quickly a video of what we've built in Minecraft and 3D printed.
Oh, sorry. Let me find this.
terms of actual physical distance, I think we covered about 2 miles length throughout the entire city. That's the underground cave. We didn't have access to nice powder prints, so these are all FDM-based printed structures. So they've come up with they came in a single color. Okay, so these are the kids that were in our program. And very briefly, I just want to talk about our next program, the Planet X. So we had kids build on a giant sphere. We pretended that it was a planet that they have to start building on. So it was a bit challenging compared to the first one where everything is flat. Okay, the building itself is challenging because if you have ever tried to build on a vertical surface, you find out that very soon, very quickly, it gets very hard to know where you are. We also found that Minecraft has a limitation of 256 blocks high. You can build as millions of blocks wide, but you're only limited to 256 blocks. So that's how our planet, the size of our planet was, 160 blocks. And we learned that we should limit the use of TNT. So for this time, we sort of put a rule that we are not allowed to use TNT. But you know what? The kids they had fun anyway without TNTs. So this bunch of kids here, as they are building on the planet. Let me see if I can get this video running.
Oh, yes. Let's go. Okay, now we have to... This is the planet for the water slide. This is planet water slide. Planet water slide. Planet water slide.
Planetary water slide.
Whoa! It hasn't even reached the board, 96 feet away.
So they put a boat, a ship on, and then they ride down this giant water slide on the planet. So they had heaps of fun. And this is just a video showing the final outcome of the planet. So these are builds that they made. Okay, and these are the kids that all helped out to build on the planet. Okay, I think I went too far. Okay, so I'll pass it to Phoebe now.
So my name is Phoebe, and I help my dad with his 3D printing Minecraft class. And I'll be talking about what we've learned in that program. But first, I want to show all of you a video, and this video explains about the 3D printed city that we all made together. And it took us 14 days to complete it, made by 21 children.
His name is Joseph. His name is Austin. His name is Ernest, and his name is Phoebe.
The entrance to this big city is a huge signpost here. And once you enter it, there are many dragon monuments, like these here, a floating pig, a floating temple, and there's this structure over here that's supposed to be a helicopter pad. Down here we have what's supposed to be Area 51. Some people built structures in that. And in this land there's a huge river intersecting through all the structures. Many people used bridges as transport across the river. There's also many structures on this side of the land, such as this roller coaster here, 2 small towns, a hot air balloon, and a huge golden building.
I built this because I think an airplane could fly all over the city and see everything. And also, I built this bridge so people can cross it. And also, I built this for the horse house. And I built this for me.
So I've built this small town. It has a restaurant, a gym, a landmark, and a plaza for people to eat. I also built this. It's like a big version of normal Minecraft. This is a scene where the character is trying to mine something. And I've also built this Pokemon structures. It has 3 Pokeballs and the 3 starters, Chico, Torchic, and Mudkip.
So I've built this hot air balloon for transporting people around, and if they want to like look around the world, then they can ride in it. And I've also built a village. It has a community hall, a plaza, and some other little houses. So this is a helicopter I made, and it's for viewing the whole entire city. This is a stadium, and you can watch sports like soccer or footy. So in Minecraft, I can build anything I like, from houses to animals. And with those objects that I build, I can turn that into a real thing, a real object with a 3D printer.
In your imagination, you can make anything with your point, and you can make one of these, and you can make one of those, and the middle ones. And you can even make the lava thing. The lava thing is the easiest. And you can make a gate. And you can make that horse thing anyway. And you can make a bridge. You can make anything that you want. I love Minecraft. You can build anything as long as you use your brain. And make anything, and you can print anything in the 3D printer.
3D printing. So, what have we learnt during this program? It promotes teamwork by building with friends and making the whole city together. So, let's say if I want to build a hotel and I know how to build the outside of the hotel, but I don't know how to I don't know what to put inside the rooms of the hotel, then maybe I can ask a friend to help. Or maybe if I want to build the hotel faster, then I can also ask a friend to help. Next. We learn to show our creativeness by using our imagination and transfer it into the Minecraft world by placing blocks down. And there is no limit to what we're building. We can build as high as we want, as big as we want. We can build underground. And being creative means that we can use all different types of blocks like stone, wood, or even dirt. Building in Minecraft is fun. It makes me happy to see what I've built, and it's even better if it's printed out. It's just like Minecraft coming to life. And these are pictures of what I built in Minecraft, and they were printed out. So we have like a dome-shaped structure and a dragon and a windmill.
Thank you, Phoebe. Appreciate that. Good job. Now, what I love about Minecraft is the idea that if you saw the kids talking and telling stories about that place, I mean, those were printed out models, but they were real for those kids, and they were real locations, and real things happened there. And so one of the things that I teach is I teach kids about the concept of a story. And a story, really, at its barest essentials, is a person in a place with a problem. And in literature, we call that character, setting, and plot. But if you think about telling a story, what are the stories that happen in your cities? You can have kids write about that. You can have kids talk about it on video. There's a lot of learning that takes place around it. But I often tell my teachers, you know, Minecraft doesn't teach things. Minecraft helps people learn. But it provides a catalyst for that powerful learning to take place. So, for instance, we ran into the same thing that David ran into with TNT. Even at the high school level, kids love TNT. And so we had some things that kids had built get destroyed. And we went through this process of thinking about, do we ban TNT? And it kicked off a huge debate in my classroom. I had one group of kids saying, you know, TNT doesn't do anything that you can't do by hand. It just does it a lot faster. But if you really need to dig a quarry, just get a bunch of people together and have them dig it out. You don't need something that powerful that can do it in a couple of seconds. But at the same time, I had another group of kids who came up to me, and they were just as vocal. These kids had all stockpiled large amounts of TNT in their basements, and they said, don't take our TNT. They had this rumor, or you're going to get rid of TNT. They said, I have a right to use my TNT responsibly. Don't take away the TNT. I built that TNT, you know. And then the other kids are saying, well, why do you have so much TNT in your basement? Well, that's not the point. I'm a collector. I just like to, you know, hold on to it. It's, you know, but it's not, you know, it's the person. It's not the TNT, you know. Ban the person, not the material, is what the kids would tell us. So it kicked off this huge debate. And at one point I said, you know, this is really interesting. Do you guys see the real life parallel to this? And very few kids actually saw the parallel with some of the real things that we're talking about in, you know, unfortunately in the real world. But it provided a place to have this discussion over a game. But it was a real discussion. It was fascinating. And so for me, that's one of the most powerful points. A lot of the best learning in my classroom doesn't happen while the kids are playing Minecraft. It happens when their laptops are closed and we're processing and we're talking about that, because there is no undo. And if something gets destroyed, we have to face the consequences of that. We can't just roll it back and pretend it didn't happen. And that's, I think, good training for life, because in life there is no undo. There's certainly been moments where I wish that I could just suck those words right back into my mouth, and you can't. Right? If you say something or if you do something, there is no undo. But Minecraft's a good way to introduce those ideas to kids so that they start thinking about the consequences that their actions have on other people. So thank you. Boy, I didn't even plan to say that, but so much of this kind of really speaks to me as a teacher, because what I'm trying to teach my kids, above trying to teach them content, is I'm trying to teach them to be good people and to make ethical choices. And those are just some of the skills that we're trying to build. Now, what I do in my classroom is I challenge kids to do two things. I challenge them to build stuff that already exists, and then build stuff that never existed before. And I think when you give kids challenges to build things, there's a lot of good learning that happens, even if you don't decide to 3D print it. We do 3D print a lot of the stuff that we produce just because it's really neat to have it. But I wanted to give you some ideas about some different kinds of things that you can have kids working on. So if you think about the idea of, okay, let's build a famous monument, that's what I call a structured challenge. If it's not there in real life, you can't put it in the game. You have to build it so that it looks right. And we've had kids build things like Notre Dame Cathedral. These weren't my kids, but you know, they built, you know, the cathedral, the Eiffel Tower. There are real lessons that you can get into about ratio and proportion and scale. We had our kids model the entire Punahou campus in Minecraft, and it's pretty amazing. It actually feels like you're walking through the center of campus. But my kids said, well, when we first built it, it didn't feel right. Like we built the buildings, we took pictures, we built it so it looked, the buildings all looked the same. But when we put it on campus, it didn't look right. And that's when we realized that our entire high school campus is built on a slight incline. And we never notice it regularly when we walk around. So they basically took the buildings off, they actually backed the buildings up. And then they built the incline, and when they put the buildings back on, then it felt right. But that was actually something really interesting. None of them had observed that before, but using Minecraft helped them to kind of talk about, this doesn't quite feel right, you know, why not? And sometimes there are compromises you have to make when you're building to make something feel right in some intangible way. So the other thing we'll ask kids to do is give them a creative challenge. Build something that has never existed before. So build the kind of house that you want to live in. There's a really great book that we use in our middle school, and our junior school that's called Andrew Henry's Meadow. And I remember this when I was growing up. I think it was written in like the 70s by Doris Burns. And it's a wonderful story because it's about these kids who run away from home and they build their own. They build every house they build is slightly different. And it's, you know, one kid loves boats, so he builds a house on the river. Another kid loves rabbits, so he builds an underground house. Another kid loves birds, so she builds it up in a tree house. And it was only later that I realized this book is about Minecraft, even though it was written like 50 years ago. So that's a really great introduction to kids about building the house that you want to live in. It's called Andrew Henry's Meadow. Check your library, see if they have it. But when we challenge kids to build houses, we get all kinds of different things. Kids make lava floors, they make all kinds of things. And I think it's important to pair assignments between, if it's not there in real life, you can't do it, versus build anything that you want. We're not getting into ratio and scale here so much, but we're giving kids that creative outlet. And then we can use programs like MindWays to export them into files that can then be brought into a program like Blender, for example, that will actually render these so they look like photographs. And so what we'll do with our kids is when kids build their houses, what we'll do is actually render them out. And it takes a little bit of time to render each one. But I gave my kids a calendar, actually. We made it one of those photo calendars, but each month was a different kid's house. And we kind of gave those out as little gifts. And so that was kind of a nice thing. And then some of them, kids could take that same file and go ahead and print it out in real life. Here's another example of a structured challenge. So my kids, one week we were staying with their grandparents, and it rained like the entire week. And so I challenged them to say, okay, well, can you build our house in Minecraft? And it was really interesting, all the different things they had to think about to make the house kind of feel right. How do you get that right feel? And in a lot of cases, they had to make choices. Like the couch, they don't have a striped couch, but they used watermelons, and that kind of looked right. You know, and in some cases, they measured stuff out, and they built the hallway to scale, but it felt too long in Minecraft for some reason, so they had to shorten it. Even though it wasn't accurate in terms of scale, it felt like walking down the hallway. And what was nice here is they were pacing off down the hallway and seeing, you know, how it felt. And if you'd seen me and my wife kind of having the kids doing this, you would have said, we're the worst parents in the world because the kids are all on the laptops. We're not playing board games or doing stuff as a family. Why are they just all on their screens? But what they were really doing was they were comparing notes, they were taking photos, they were arguing and debating about what should go where, and there was a lot of rich collaboration that was going on. Even though they were both looking at screens, they were involved in this sort of real-world type challenge. And so these are just some examples of building challenges that you can give kids that I think emphasize a lot of the kinds of skills that we're trying to build. We're trying to give kids skills not only in measuring and comparing, but also skills in collaboration, in compromise. I mean, this is how we make kids who are better citizens and understand what it takes to work together in a team. So this right here is a castle that I had made in Minecraft and then actually printed out. We went to a company called Shapeways. And Shapeways.com there's one company, there's another one called Sculptio. I actually wanted to print it out in full color. There's a great company that's actually down on the expo floor right now called Mod T. They'd actually do a 3D printer for a few $100s, and you can print these out at home. And I think as you saw, you can come out with some really effective looking sculptures that they don't have to be in full color, because a lot of it is the story and the imagination behind it. But if you want to go with full color, you can get some really neat examples here. One way that I really got into 3D printing was Sterling Babcock is a guy that created a house called Solomar. And unfortunately, Sterling was not able to be here. But we used Eric's software to actually print this thing out through Shapeways. And so we got the file, the project file, and sent it through. And what's really neat about this house, and we have the house up here, it's only about this big. Every single block in Minecraft 1.7, I think, is actually in there. And the whole house comes apart, so you can take off the roof, which David is demonstrating right now. And you can actually take off the top, and you can look inside, and you can see the nether, and he's actually put in one of each kind of block. So it's kind of fun to go through there and kind of see where are all of these different blocks. So after the presentation, if you'd like to come up and take a look at it, please do. And to print out this house This is a larger size. This cost me about 120 bucks. And for about $80, you can get a smaller size one. And to me, the smaller one's actually more cool because all of the detail is still there. When you 3D print something, you can get these minute details in a very small amount of space. And, you know, it's it's really neat to be able to design something in Minecraft and then see it in real life. And so it's all a web-based interface. And I wanted to hand this off to Eric because Eric's going to actually talk about the process of 3D printing some of these once you actually have these models. Eric?
Great. Thanks very much, David. Douglas. Yes, I know who you are. It's been a long MINECON. Yeah, no, he talked about some of the things I'm going to talk about too. And so who am I? I'm Eric Haynes. I work for Autodesk, which is a computer-aided design firm, and do computer graphics software for a living. But this was a hobby. This is, I looked it up actually. When did I first play Minecraft? And it was, I just passed my 6th year anniversary. It was 6 years, 3 days ago. But when I do crazy things like this was actually handmade. I used a friend's program. We had our own little private server. We were all total addicts, computer graphics nerds and mechanical engineers and so on, and had our own little thing. And so we would just build crazy stuff for each other. So I put down the 17,614 blocks in this, but who's counting? For this model. And I used a program that basically took a model and gave slices and told you where to put the blocks. I'm not that creative or anything. But eventually I took the 12-step program and I'm clean now, and I don't obsess over Minecraft, but I loved it. I mean, really, great 2 years of doing way too much Minecraft. But then I wanted to give back to the community. I'd seen all these people do mods. I'd seen all these people do cool textures and all kinds of great stuff. And I'm like, well, what can I do? Well, I know about 3D printing a little bit. I know about exporting image models. So I went ahead and wrote this program called Mineways, just for the fun of it. It's a total hobby. It's free. It's open source. All that kind of good stuff. I'm not making any money. Just the opposite. My wife will attest that we have way too many horizontal surfaces in our house that have things on them. But I wasn't the person who invented this idea. Originally, some guys at MIT, 2 students there, they did it. I think 2011 in May. Did a little sort of demo program. Like they put some blocks up in their world, and then they had a Python script that would read through and find all the models, and then they printed it in a printer at the lab there. But they didn't really carry it on further, and I got excited in the summer because this company, Shapeways, which has been mentioned, started to offer these color prints. And that was like, oh, wow, I can do that. And so I wrote Mineways, and again, based on an open source program called MINECON, by Sean Kaysen, I think his name is. And that gave me a big leg up on doing all this user interface. And so it took me about 5 weeks before Christmas to do this thing. And basically I released it Christmas Eve and put it on Reddit Christmas Eve. And we got a Christmas Eve service, and my boys looked on Reddit and they're like, Dad, 1,200 upvotes, And I'm, oh yeah, all right, success. So that sort of was a wonderful launch. So this is just showing this print, and I'll talk about the process in a second. But this was one of the first prints, and the blocks here are just pure color. Since then, I've gotten kind of crazy with going, adding texture packs or resource packs and so on. So this is the process in a nutshell. It's really, honestly, a very easy program to use. You pick one of your worlds. You can zoom in with the mouse wheel. You scroll around. There's the tower that I want to export, so I just select the area. A little dialog comes up. You can read it, but basically you say yes. And then you export. You pick some file name. And you hit OK. The scary dialog comes up. Ignore the scary dialog. Just hit OK, and you'll be fine 99% of the time. You get this model out. You can then preview it in a program. This program's called G3D, and I link to it from the site. It was actually, in fact, written by one of the players in our world, who's a professor at Williams and does consulting and whatnot. And he gives a very nice rendering of these Minecraft models, since I keep bugging him for new features. So the other thing that you can do, though, is send it to the printing, send it for a printing format. And that does a little bit different kind of thing, but again, it gives you this model that you can then preview in various programs. So here I'm using this one called MeshLab, again, another free program. You'll notice here what's interesting is when we zoom in, things like the torches are not torches anymore. They're very tiny there, but they're just kind of flattened out against the walls. And that's because, like a lot of 3D printers, they really can't do fine detail without it breaking off or snapping or something. So I try to sort of just go for pure blocks at its simplest when I export, so that it's not really fine featured that will have problems really printing. And that's really it in a nutshell. You get these files out, and you either just send them to your home printer, or you can upload them to various printing services, which I'll talk about a little later. So these are some of the examples. This was, if you look closely, you can see it's Minecraft Alpha. We were way back in the days when you couldn't even die. It was kind of fun. But anyway, so this is another one by the guy who did the Eiffel Tower. He did a Sentinel Castle, and we had that printed out. Another one I just found on Planet Minecraft. I love this world in a bowl. It's sort of, it's like Minecraft in a little, capsule. It's just like, this land and and the trees and the water and so on, and very small little kind of print, very nice. So some of the things that the printing software actually does for you is, well, for example, Douglas showed a model earlier of that Eiffel Tower, that they had a very elaborate Eiffel Tower. But if you look closely at that model, a lot of the blocks were just connected by edges, so that if in the real world you built something that was only connected by edges, it would just fall into a bunch of separate blocks, right? So what the program does is it tries to find those kinds of cases and puts the blocks there for you. Or what you can do is turn off that feature and just say, no, just check for me if this model's okay. And it'll tell you, oh wait, there's 2 disconnected parts somewhere in your model, and it'll give you a debug mode to let you go look at the model in different colors and see where the disconnection happened, so that you can go in and add more blocks to make your model nice and solid and not, not going to fall apart. The other kinds of things it does is hollow out the bottom of the model. Like, so it'll sort of say, oh, this is all stuff. Well, it's all blocks, but I'm only going to really see the outside of this model. You don't have to print the whole model. You just want to print the outside for some of this. So it'll hollow it out. And this was a huge deal to me. I first exported this model with colors, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And then I uploaded it to Shapeways, and I went, $68? Not the price point I wanted. And so I found that by adding this hollowing algorithm, it came down to like $20 odd, and that was like, okay, phew, this project's not doomed for me. It won't totally destroy my budget. But it turns out also for 3D printers at home, commercial, like the sort of library printer or the homeschool printer, where you're using a single color, you really kind of want to have that filled in. So there's, again, sort of options that'll actually fill in the building for you and make it nice and solid, so that you don't have problems with really thin walls. So anyway, there's a bunch of features. You kind of have to know what your printer is doing is the takeaway here. I lucked out where I live in Boston. I live near this makerspace, fantastic, huge makerspace called Artisans Asylum. And it turns out one of the guys who actually designed and developed these color printers also was there. I ran across one of his printers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to you. And he kindly surprised me with a print of our spawn. So this is actually our spawn, and we're a bunch of our buildings. This station is our train station with 14 tracks and all that kind of stuff. It's a great model, and I uploaded it to Shapeways just on a goof, like, oh, no one will ever print this because it's $600. It's just a crazy amount of money. So I got surprised by this, and it's wonderful, but I never expect to see models this large again in my lifetime. What I do is I tend to print these small things. What my mantra is, smaller is cuter, is cheaper, is cooler. 3D printing is mostly based on the cost of the material. And so complexity, making really complex, cool, colorful things, that's all free. All the painting's free, all the complexity's free. It's just the weight of the material. It's the weight of the model. So if you build a block, or if you build some elaborate, sculpture, they're the same price if they're the same number of blocks. So I encourage people to really try to build cool little models and then print those out. These are like, I forget, like $11 each or something. Not very much. And they're very small, but they're super cool because they're so tiny. You see all this detail. So these are just a number of models on the gallery of Mineways. If you don't deal with this subject at all, walking out of here, you're like, oh, I'm done with that, now I know. If nothing else, it behooves you to go to mineways.com and look for the gallery, just to see some of the models there, because it's just cool what people have done. People have also done interesting things, like the guy who did the dice down there with the little various marks. He's also made like Braille, which I thought was really clever, a very clever educational, useful kind of thing, is that he, it's just like, oh, I'll build Braille and print it out, and it's perfectly readable, as it were. This is just another cool project that, and I wanted to sort of mention it because it brings in Lego. Lego is another classic way to make the virtual real. You know, you take your Minecraft model and then you reproduce it in Lego. This I thought was just kind of cool, where he took this falling water Lego model and he turned it into a sort of Minecraft version of a Lego version of the real falling water, and then printed it out. And this is the other project I wanted to mention, just because it's so crazy big, is this guy, Ben Rothman, who is a sophomore at Northwestern. He basically started to print or started to make his campus in Minecraft a bunch of years ago. And so he made this engineering center, and he went to the dean of engineering, actually, and said, hey, gee, I hear you have a printer in the basement. What's up with that? They printed it out, and the dean basically said, well, oh, you're building more of the campus? Well, what would it cost us? And basically the dean gave him a $2,000 grant for materials, and he had to do all the printing himself. And he came up with this thing, which is about 2/3 of Northwestern's campus. And yeah, it's just incredible. It's about 42 prints, and he did a lot of world edit and so on. But the campus is really detailed. I think that he left off some dorms, which were kind of boring buildings. But all the campus is there. And the other fun piece of it is that they actually then built a big box and put it in the engineering center in the lobby. That's his mom checking out the box. He was actually, just to give you an idea here, parents, take heart, is that he, you go, well, okay, so he spent what, like 8 months building this model while he's a sophomore at Northwestern. So what's, is he flipping burgers now? No, he actually got an internship with Google that summer, so, he can do both. Anyway. It's possible. So the interesting thing here is just the $2,000 thing I wanted to mention is, well, gee, that's nice that it was $2,000, but the case is actually $2,500 for a carpenter to build it. So you got to put it in, perspective. It depends on your goals. The other thing I wanted to point out was something that Douglas has mentioned, is that you don't have to have a 3D printer. I don't have a 3D printer. I'm actually kind of tempted by the one downstairs for $350. That's getting to my price point. But I tend to do like Shapeways or Sculpteo or one of these other firms. You can just upload and give me your credit card and say go, and you can get these very high quality models that can give you just a nice finish, and you can get color and so on. And so you're using a $70,000 printer that you're never going to afford normally. This one I wanted to also just mention, just because it's sort of a shout out. It's done by a number of people who built this world, a group in Spain, and then they rendered it with software. They all work at the same company, Solid Angle. And Solid Angle is a little startup which actually just got recently acquired by Autodesk, which is great, because I've known these guys for years, and what they've done is their renderer is actually used in most major motion, well, I'd say about half of major motion pictures for special effects right now, for rendering those. All of Sony ImageWorks has used it for years and years. So what's cool about this, the sort of synchronicity or something, is that the guy who's actually founded the company is in Los Angeles right now. He's trying to get his his program's up for an Academy Award, an Oscar. It's in the technical merit. You'll never see him on the TV show, but there's a bunch of technical merit Oscars that they hand out. So he's currently petitioning the committee and talking about what he's done and so on. So I just thought it was cool. It's like, wow, this high-end renderer is actually doing Minecraft renders. The other thing I wanted to just show is this little thing. Oops, let's see. How do I video should be going in some way? Maybe this one didn't get videoed. Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's okay, that's okay. Well, maybe that's a plus. Why does it keep flipping over? I don't know. There we go. I want it to stay on that. Hopefully it'll stay there. Okay, good. What you can do right now is put this in your smartphone, and that, maybe better than a video. That'll be the surprise. Is if you put this little bit.ly/my-hopper in your smartphone, and you have a new smartphone, and you have a good internet connection, all those things, fingers crossed, you'll get this model up, and it'll spin around, and you can interact with it. You can move your finger and so on. And so it's cool. It's this, again, it's just a fun thing. Sketchfab. I highly recommend them. They actually did all the integration. They added to my source to just allow you to directly go from MineWays into Sketchfab and just put your models up there. It's totally free. MineWays is free. Sketchfab's free for an account. You just can get your models up. You can annotate them. You can actually go to places and say, here's the king's throne, and here's where the water comes in, or whatever. You can make your model and make tours, basically. So they've had a lot of fun with that. They in fact, I think they just announced, I'm not a shill for Sketchfab. I really have nothing to do with them, but they just had a contest, actually, of putting models up and annotating them. It's some Minecraft mystery contest or something. Anyway, go look online because you could win an Oculus Rift, so that would be cool. And that's, I think, all I have to say.
Great.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. So I think we do have some time to take some questions. So if you could just go on up to the microphone, and we'll just sort of, we have microphones on either end, so you can just line up there, and then we'll kind of take them in turn. And yeah, we also, if you want to take a look at any of the models, they're up here too. Okay. Nice and loud, and I'll just repeat it.
What do you recommend as the software we use to buy it? Like, that'll print it for us and send it to us. What's the best website or company or software to buy it from?
Oh, okay. So you mean like if you wanted to upload the model? He asked what would be the best place to use to make the models. And my personal favorite is Shapeways, only because they're pretty quick. The Sculpteo is actually a little faster, but they're relatively cheap compared to Sculpteo. And so Shapeways is reasonable as good and cheap. There's other, but you look around. Like there's also the one called 3D Hubs, which is sort of, it's kind of local. It's just local people who have their 3D printers in their homes and or offices and are willing to print. And so you can get things very quickly from them, like in a day or two sometimes. So it just depends on what you want exactly.
And I've used both Shapeways and Sculpteo, so you can upload your models for free. And I would try it on both and kind of see what the options are, because for some models, one service might work better than another one. You can't say that one is sort of overall better. They're very comparable. I think this young man over here was next.
What is the recommended amount of dedicated RAM in order to run a Minecraft server? What is the recommended amount of dedicated RAM in order to run
What's
a Minecraft
a recommended amount of dedicated RAM to run a Minecraft server?
server? Dedicated RAM.
Yeah, somebody else in the audience is probably more equipped to answer that question than us, I would think. Anybody have any suggestions? Do I hear 16? Do I hear 32? I'd say at least 16. Okay, on this side.
How does 3D printing work?
Maybe I could give the quick explanation. So there's sort of two main methods, I think. One is like, imagine you have a glue gun, or like even this tube of toothpaste or something like that, and it just kind of squirts out some hot plastic, and then the plastic cools in place. And so that one you have to be a little bit careful, because I'm sure these guys, I'd be interested to hear what David has to say, but you have to have a lot of extra support structure, or you have to tell people only build in like gravel and sand, because if you have things that hang over, you can get these loops that kind of droop down, and it can be a problem. So that's one. And then there's another process that these guys use, the Shapeways and Sculpteo, which is they just lay down thin beds, and they kind of either they use lasers to melt the stuff in place, or they use water to kind of make it solidify, like it's plaster of Paris kind of stuff. And so wherever they put water, it solidifies. But the dust kind of holds everything in place. So they get a big clump of dust, or like a big hunk of this sort of dust and solidified stuff. But anyway, those are the two. And it's kind of cool. Like the Shapeways ones are nice because you can build pretty much anything. It doesn't, like, you don't have to worry about support structure. Like, you don't have to worry about overhangs or making roofs too long or things like that. Anyway, that's about it. The one thing I will address just quickly is, one thing I will warn you about is there are lots of models you can't do. Like if you have a ship with lots of thin little wires and masts and stuff like that, it's just going to be hard to make that. Like it's just hard for the printers to do anything like that, because it's very thin features that'll kind of snap off and so on. But I think that's a learning moment. It's sort of like you go, oh, okay, I get it. I can only do models that are kind of more like this. So I hope that helps. Does that answer it? Okay.
Thank you. That's an awesome question, by the way. Thank you. Over here.
Hi. Two questions real quick. The first one is, the simple one is, do you have links to some of the things you talked about? Are they up on your website for some of the free tools and that sort of thing to go look at it?
Yeah. I
Okay.
definitely have probably way too many listed as far as free tools. Just go to the sort of main documentation page and you'll see it in there.
Okay, and then the other
MINECON,
question is, do you have any recommendations as far as 3D printing for characters as well?
Yeah, I again try to list a few things that are resources that I know of, and if you know, and if anybody knows of any, let me know, because I like to add them to that list. But I think there's a few companies that I don't know if they're still in existence. Like I know there was one called Figure Prints that would allow you to do this. Like you take a skin and upload the skin, and then they would print your character for you. But I don't know if they're, yeah, I forget who does that nowadays, but I've tried to keep a list anyway of other resources. Because like I say, I'm just a hobbyist, so I don't really, I'm happy to, and there's other companies that do some 3D printing kinds of things. So, I've tried to sort of keep a long list of who's out there.
Thank you.
I think there's a game called Infinity Blade. There's a game.
Can you use this one maybe?
There's a game called Infinity Blade. Have you heard of it? The third in its series allow you to print the characters from the game that you make. So yeah, you can just point the character that you make within the game and just send it out, and it'll come back to you in its printed form. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're in the Keong household, stocking stuffers were basically people's avatars that we then printed out. And that went over big. And my wife is from Cape Cod, and there is a lighthouse called the Nauset Lighthouse. It's very distinctive. Part of it is red, and then it's white. And we live in Hawaii now, and she gets homesick. So I made the lighthouse in Minecraft and printed it out. I exported it using Mineways, and I printed it out on our school printer, and then I painted it. And it's about this big, and she cried when she got it. She said, "This is the nicest thing you've ever given me." I gave her an engagement ring too, but the lighthouse meant more somehow. So it's just, I think it's wonderful in the way that you can make connections with people if when you print these out. So, thanks.
Oh, and you reminded me of actually one thing I did want to mention as just a technical thing, is it's if you have just a single color printer, I mean, that's again another opportunity for you to, let kids take the next step and paint it themselves. There are coatings you can buy. There's specific coatings you can buy for 3D printed material that allow them to, have paint that'll adhere to the surface. So look for those.
Yep.
I have just a couple quick questions. Douglas, one quick question for you is what do you use in your classroom or even at home in terms of servers for collaborative work?
We run a bucket server.
Okay.
Which needs to be updated at this point. But because it's a persistent server, we basically run a bucket server. Plus, it gives me a lot of the plugins that I like to use, like Core Protect, which does allow you to do rollbacks and sort of see who did what. So for me to have a persistent world up all the time, because most of the Minecraft work that my kids do is outside of my class. They're not, in my class, they're learning math. It's outside that they're actually interacting and forming a community around, we're going to create this community together. So I actually like a lot of the plugins that Bucket supports. So, yeah, or Spigot now. Yeah.
So,
right, yeah.
Second question is, how do printers at smaller or medium-sized local maker spaces compare to the large enterprise printers that you can get through a service like you purchase?
Sure, yeah. So usually those smaller ones are, like I say, it's the sort of filament kind of thing where you're like squirting out hot plastic. And so the minuses of those is, like I say, you have to have support material and so on, where you have to have something that kind of holds things in place. So like if you had this, like I've actually printed this on I have another version, like in case this one broke, I have another one in my hotel room. I should have brought it actually today, that's all black. And what's nice about those is they're very sturdy. Actually, if you on certain higher end ones, you can get really good material that's just really solid, solid plastic. But it has a lot of support material that you have to then get rid of one way or another. The one that I use at the local makerspace has like an acid bath that you throw it into for a day, and it melts away this secondary material. But again, it depends on the printer. And so these other ones are just nicer quality. If you look at the print and so on, you don't see the filaments or you don't see any kind of artifacts due to the printing process.
Okay, another question.
I actually had 3 questions, but I didn't want to take up your time in the beginning. One, can we get it printed in plastic? And if so, how much more money would it be than the regular?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so, right, you can get it printed in this sort of brittle stuff, which is this colored stuff. It's sandstone or plaster of Paris or gypsum, has different names. And that stuff's pretty brittle. It's like solid, but you drop it and it turns into 100 pieces. But yeah, you can get it printed in plastic, like by companies like I say, 3D Hubs is one. You could get it maybe locally. But also Shapeways has lots of materials you can print in, and there's a number of kinds of plastic. You can actually do things like ceramics. I don't know if people noticed, but there was a Hanukkah candle, thing there. It was actually a ceramic print. There's metal if you're rich. You can print it in a bunch of different materials. So it's kind of neat that way.
And what about price for that?
Yeah, price varies, and I try to give you a hint as far as price on Shapeways. If you pick a material and you pick a size, you can print, and you can actually, in fact, for Shapeways in particular, you can put in a price and say, I want it to be this much money, and it'll do its best to try to figure out how big to make your model. So you can kind of go the other way. You say, well, I've only got $10. How big can I get this thing? And look carefully at the output, because it may look big on your screen, but it may only be an inch high. So it just depends.
And my second question is, can you print stuff like item frames, banners, stuff that's in the item frames, or mobs?
No, actually, that's a good question. It's just in that mobs I kept away from entirely. But like I say, I think there's other models out there that you can use to get mobs and so on. And the frames and so on, yeah, I forget what the data format is, but it's one I haven't gotten around to supporting the extra, like the banners and stuff like that. I haven't. And banners are just so super involved, as you know. I just said, nope, not going to do banners, not going to do signs, not going to, they're just way too much code behind making one simple banner. So.
Will you be adding item frames? Because I know item frames basically are just as easy to make as most blocks, and just like one little small thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I haven't really messed with that. I'm more interested in people building things and making their own objects, like not to buy anything from me, or not to just make a simple item and print it out. I'm more into them like really building it. So you could even build an item out of blocks and then just export the blocks is one way to do it. But yeah.
I just want to add, Eric, that some of the kids make their own mobs with blocks. So like a creeper out from blocks, and then just print it out. Right. So it's possible.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
One right there.
Last question.
What about I actually forgot to add this when I was saying like mobs and stuff. When Minecraft updates, like this Wednesday we have the 1.11, how long would it take for you to add in those blocks?
Probably 2 or 3 days. Yeah, and luckily I went to that talk this morning and said, oh good, I'm counting 2 new blocks. Oh, thank heaven. So it wasn't too hard. It was like, it wasn't 40 blocks or something. So it should be pretty easy, and I should have some time this next week, so I hope that I can do that.
Thanks a lot. This young man I know has been waiting.
What are the minimum and maximum block sizes?
Just as far as how big a block can be, is that what you mean? Yeah. It depends on how much, how big your printer can print. I mean, you can print them pretty small, but the trick with that is if you go too small, like you were saying, like about 1.5 millimeters, I think David uses on his sort of school printer, like a kind of printer that you get downstairs. If you go smaller than like 1.5 millimeters, it starts to fall apart, like it's just too small for the printer. So anyway, so that's one thing. You can go really large, but then it's just a big block. It's not all that interesting as just a block. And printers can only print so and so big. So, but anyway, yeah. But that actually bring up a good point, which is you really do have to worry about walls. Like it's like if you really made a cathedral with walls that were only like a meter thick, it might fall down. And well, it's the same thing on 3D printers. If you make walls that are too thin, that model might not print correctly. So sometimes you have to fill in and actually make it more sturdy, like a real world kind of thing, so that it can actually print correctly.
All right. Thank you very much.
We're right on
Appreciate
time.
it.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.